morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the opportunity. This morning I'm going to share with you, very much on a cursory level, some research which forms part of a bigger organization studies research project in relation to ShareScreen Africa. Now, ShareScreen Africa, as you may or may not know, the people of ShareScreen Africa are here, in fact. So if you have any difficult questions to pose, rather direct it to them, not me. However, ladies and gentlemen, ShareScreen Africa is definitely something that is worth noting in the context of environmental education is concerned, and awareness creation and all those kinds of things. So as I've mentioned, that this forms part of a bigger research project that's underway. And this paper typically does actually follow, let's say, a scientific approach as far as everything is concerned. And I'm not going to delve into that too much. Safe to say that firstly, this paper in particular reflects SSA's establishment as an exceptional nature conservation education entity and its business model. Secondly, it presents SSA's architecture and operations. And then thirdly, finally, it reflects on the organizational business process maturity level, which is basically what I am all about as far as the bigger research project is concerned. Now, just a bit of introduction and background as far as SSA is concerned. It is a Pan-African conservation-based tutorial initiative which is set to benefit conservation agencies. There are many partnership agreements in place with training institutions and universities that share similar ideals and goals and objectives. This is an initiative which is led by Leadership for Conservation in Africa, LCA. Now let's quickly have a look at the business model. So the beauty and the delight of this is that they link experts with classrooms and conservation bodies. And this happens over a wide geographic front. Now, SSA utilizes online technology and an interactive webinar-style methodology. There are special projects, however, that happen in between and also as part of their operations. And that actually, to a large extent and very often, occurs as far as research on location is concerned. SSA's team actually travels across Africa and places where notable actions are to be taken and where the need is, and so on and so forth. The contributors to SSA's activities are mostly people that avail their services free of charge. And if you delve into this database, which they have already built up over the few years that they've been in operation, it is really, really heartwarming to note that there are so many people on their database who just freely then give their time, share their research, share their information, and so on and so forth. Now, the business model continued. First of all, I would like to just highlight the Unlocking Nature event, or events rather, which take place fortnightly. These are online seminars where individuals and organizations share information, they conduct training, they engage with discussions with a virtual audience. So during each event, a relevant conservation-related topic is under discussion. And this is wide-ranging. I don't know how many of you are, in fact, following the Unlocking Nature series, and you will note that it is really wide-ranging and it actually it covers a great scope, and there's significant depth there to make it educational and informative to the extent where students, university students, and other target audiences can actually truly benefit from this. The operational goals, yes, this is a lovely one. There is apparently, this is what one of the people told me. He says that it's enshrined in the SSA's philosophy, and this is the following: if you want to go far, you go together, and if you want to go fast, you go alone. Now, SSA doesn't want to go, yeah, they want to go fast, but they don't want to go alone. So essentially, they're really optimizing this mix. The operational goals continued. It's all in the name, ShareScreen Africa. Sharing of knowledge and ideas by bringing thought leaders and conservation pioneers into classrooms. They enable young African leaders and they cultivate an African voice for conservation. They create conservation-minded consciousness amongst different audiences, and they build networks. And this is very important because the network building part actually contributes to them gathering people who are on their database, who are, of course, willing and able and so on, and equipped and capacitated to further contribute as far as their activities are concerned. This is just a quick one here. ShareScreen Africa, they actually they involve scientists. Their contributors are scientists, researchers, operational specialists, legal people, field studies. They actually identify topics that are of current concern. There are lecturers that are real honest to goodness university lecturers who then actually come and they actually contribute from this point of view, or from this angle rather. It involves schools, teachers, students as such, scholars, researchers, people who have been in the field for a long time, people who are just doing this as a professional hobby, if you will. And then they are, of course, referred to as tutors and then retired people in this context. I'm not going to delve into this much more. The slides will be available. Time is of the essence here. Now, there is a very important part from an organizational studies point of view that one always should bear in mind when one analyzes a business model, and that is its compliance and the regulatory framework, compliance to and the regulatory framework within which it actually operates. So SSA, generally speaking, they operate within the context of international law, formal international conventions. Those are the driving points as far as many of their activities and their approaches and so on and so forth are concerned. These conventions are typically established practices that are followed but not necessarily legally enforceable. Please note that a formal convention and just a convention, it's two different animals, in fact. Of course, this is driven by common law, precedents, case law, and so on and so forth, into which I'm not going to delve too much at this point in time. Statute law, local legal prescripts, because they have a cross-boundary activity and operations model. One needs to take care that if one operates in Kenya or Rwanda or wherever the case may be, that one should observe the necessary local regulatory framework, because, you know, this is the quickest way that you make yourself unwelcome if you do not observe and respect such. Organizational standard operating procedures. I have found that in my maturity analysis, it's a baseline maturity analysis to which I'll refer a bit later, that SSA actually has a very strong and very definite standard operating procedure framework. And I think for those of you in the audience who are interested in you know, this particular model, I think this is something that's quite notable from an organization studies point of view, an operational behavior point of view, etc., etc. The strategy and planning thing includes content localization, tailoring content to reflect local cultures, very important, local cultures, languages, and needs, of course, the local needs to engage in a broader audience or with a broader audience. So it's very much community orientated. In fact, that's what it kind of refers to. Partnerships, very, very important. I think I've alluded to this to some extent, but the partnership thing and the networking thing is extremely important as far as the success of SSA is concerned. And they collaborate with local organizations, educational institutions, and influencers to expand reach and credibility, which is very important. This is all about branding yourself and making yourself known within a particular context and a particular setting and environment. By way of example, they engage typically with broad-ranging organizations, including 11 universities, 70 conservation partners, and many more. These are just merely examples of their reach in terms of partnership. The technology accessibility, ensuring the platform is accessible on various devices and internet speeds, possibly offering offline resources. And this is a very, very important. This is a fundamentally important part of their operations and business model. And this thing of utilizing technology. And I think it is very important for us to understand that just using technology is not good enough anymore. You need to upscale yourself and up your standards as far as this is concerned, because the opportunities that the rapidly improving technology environment actually gives makes it very, very important for one to stay on top of that and to explore and exploit the opportunities that such may yield eventually. Now, there are follow-up resources providing recorded sessions, supplementary materials, and opportunities for further learning after webinars. And this is a beautiful part of their operations as well. It is not just a once-off event where people sit and listen and they may or may not contribute and so on. These resources are made available afterwards for people who would want to watch it again, people who want to pursue certain issues and whatever the case may be, and for researchers and so forth. The feedback mechanism is very important as well, and I'm looking at it from an organization operations point of view, an organizational operations point of view, and this is very important. The implementation of surveys, the use and usage of surveys to gather participant feedback and continuously improve future sessions. Now, we all know that, surveys may or may not be good instruments. And that's why I emphasize use and usage, because sometimes it is just going through the motions process. But what I have found in terms of their operations when I did a bit of analysis is that they truly attempt to apply surveys the correct way, and they actually make use of the information which they gather during such analyses. They invest significant resources, time and effort in planning their activities. Very important. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. That's an old adage, but it's a very true one, very much true. Sometimes we find that we want to cut corners. We are so happy with what we are hoping to do that we do not plan properly for what we are hoping to do. So deciding on topics to be addressed is based on requests or suggestions from Meta followers or critical issues of immediate and current concern, which, of course, because SSA is in touch with current affairs and current issues and so on and so forth, which they then pick up from that angle. Database currently approximately 305 high-level experts to draw from, and I am now kind of referring back to my mentioning of the Supra in terms of the networking and the partnerships which they have already built during this short time of their existence so far. Interestingly enough, just if we talk money, we all know that things are not cheap. I've heard the word billions being thrown around here just in the previous presentation, and it's astounding. And $1 billion rolls off your tongue very quickly, but if you really take what $1 billion buys you, especially within the context of what we're trying to achieve in the conservation arena, $1 billion comes and goes. And then by their own acknowledgement, they tend to say, but still, we are not winning the fight yet. So 18,000 rands per edition as far as Unlocking Nature is concerned. And as a management scientist and having done these kinds of analyses many times previously in different environments and sectors, I can tell you that 18,000 rands, what they actually end up doing with 18,000 rands is astonishing, because 18,000 rands is not a lot of money. I can spend that in 3 days here at this venue, for instance. You know what I'm getting at as far as that is concerned. So the value for money proposition is very important, and I think they have managed to somehow achieve a miracle to an extent. So the organizational setup is it is led by an SSA director. The staff contingent, depending on project and related demands, it approximates to about 15 people on and off involved in each event, which of course is significant, but if you take the reach, it is really, there's utility there. I must say there's utility there. There's an average of 18 hours planning to put an event together, right? So they do spend and invest in planning. SSA promotes events through website postings, email droppings to regular and past attendees on the organization's database, specific invites to pre-identified parties. And that is, again, I am harping this point, but it is again about your partners and your networks. And as you grow your organization, as you grow your activities and so on, this database of yours becomes more and more important, because you can delve into that, you can dig into that. And then, of course, word of mouth. Word of mouth is very important.